live on this Friday morning on the Coffee Break Show. Vickie has this whole intro that she does for success secrets for business, family, and life. I always kind of want to jumble those words, Karen.
Well, let me do it.
Just because.
I keep it
Go
nice
for it,
and
girl.
simple. This is the Coffee Break Show with today Scott Stevens and Karen Sachs, and this is brought to you by Metadime Digital Network.
That's right. Metadime is going to be the big boy as we kind of rebrand and move our content under that particular umbrella. And I think in time, the goal is to welcome others into this as well. So then we can, be more than we are. And that's kind of the beauty of this. So
Exactly.
this is typical.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go.
I think we have a delay, Scott. I'm sorry. We already have two people who are seriously looking to add their programs, so
Mhm.
it's exciting to spread out.
It is, and all of the shows, the three that we have currently, and others that are kind of circling, are all different. It's all different content, and that's kind of the cool thing, rather than being this topic, but with this version and that version and this version, and maybe a little bit of that. So it's going to be different, and so we're going to appeal to a broader audience in that particular way. So that's the exciting thing about this.
It really is. There's some crossover, but we
Hmm.
do have some viewers who only watch this show. And by the way, we have four shows, Scott, because you forgot your weather show.
Ah, yeah, I
I
can't forget
love it.
that.
I love the
I
weather show.
I enjoy it. It's kind of my beast. What is different for me though with that, Karen, is I'm typically used to forecasting or talking about one particular location and then bringing in, what's happening around the area just as color, but then only very briefly because, my audience is local. And then you're dealing with a forecast versus this show. It's kind of more of a description and news kind of thing as to what's going on around. And it's very broad brush. And that's something that, because usually when you're local, there's an accountability because you're issuing a forecast, and this way I'm kind of completely walking away from that. So it's a different flavor for me, and I'm kind of just figuring out the content that's appropriate and relevant and people are interested. So that's every weekday evening at 5 o'clock Mountain.
Exactly, and 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
It's really interesting for me because it's not a forecast. It really is a global approach, and that provides two benefits. First of all, we have a very global audience.
Hmm.
So you are touching on some of the places where we have people. The other piece of the puzzle is that I have learned so much. It amazes me. I didn't
Yeah.
realize there were so many cloud things,
Yeah.
but you have educated me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm learning too. Every day is a new process, and that's kind of why I've liked the sciences, because as we go through time, as we learn new technologies, new observational tools or techniques or platforms, there's going to be discovery, and that excites me. And I think we could probably apply that to so many fields of study, whether it's medicine, whether it's social sciences, whether it's earth observing sciences. There's discovery happening all the time, and that keeps me interested. The mind is a beast that way. It needs to be tantalized with new discoveries weekly, daily,
Daily,
daily.
it's like technology.
Oh,
You
imagine
know,
that.
what's that phrase? Well, actually, you say that in Colorado. If you don't like the weather, just wait a minute.
It can be true, and yes, it can be true. And we're waiting. We're waiting for a little rain here. We've been a bit on the dry side. I know in Pennsylvania it's a whole nother beast out that direction. So we don't have your humidity, but we don't get your rainfall.
Yes,
So
which actually is bad for you. We really don't have flooding here, something that will affect all the crops. So we're really blessed with that. And even
hmm,
when we've had droughts, they're nothing compared to
yeah,
so many
they're
places
minimal.
in Colorado and the Midwest.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So that's the cool thing about weather. Everybody can talk about it.
Well, we can,
We're all
it's
enduring it. We're all living it.
and you're my favorite meteorologist because that gives me an opportunity to ask questions. I almost sent a messenger to you the other day.
Hmm.
It was a gorgeous sunny day, spectacularly beautiful blue skies, and I heard a thunder that I jumped out of the chair.
Wow.
And that happened about 3 times. And what I learned was that about 5 miles away, they were having a fierce thunderstorm. So I wanted to find out, hey, Scott, does this happen often?
So what is it, like 6 seconds to the mile? So if you see a flash of lightning, count about 6 seconds, 6 point something, and boom, there's your thunder to get you distance from the nearest part of the little light arc of lightning. So I remember used to laying in bed as a kid and seeing the flash and 1,
One,
2,
two, three.
3, 4, 20, 21, 20. Okay, no worries.
Yeah, we used to do that too. But something else from a weather standpoint, and I'd be really curious if anyone else has ever done this. And if you all say no, then I guess I'm a little crazy. When I was little, I loved to lie down on the grass and look at the clouds and decide what they looked like.
Yeah.
That looks like a heart, and that's a star, and that's Mickey Mouse. And so, has anyone ever done that except me?
And then you wait 30 seconds, and it goes from a turtle to an elephant.
Yes, that's true.
It happens. It happens. And yeah, getting into the field I got into, I was seeing all kinds of weird things in clouds. Yeah, and I was weird. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to admit these things on a Friday.
I did call you a nerd earlier this
Yeah,
week.
I'm
I'm really
totally a
sorry
nerd.
about that.
Totally. I will never deny that. In fact, it's almost become a badge of honor.
That's true.
We've got shows on this, like what Big Bang something or other. That
Uh-huh.
show, it's it's a Third Rock from the Sun. There's always a little bit of science nerdy thing, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anyone who's on. I can't see that. But
Oh,
keep looking up. There is your
yeah, that's my tag.
tagline. Oh, there
And
is all kinds of stuff. People love the weather. Well, as much as people, for example, China right now. Yeah, you showed pictures of the flooding in China, and it blew me away. I have never seen anything like that. Oh, send you some from Washington.
MJ, we had an impromptu show with her last Monday. Yeah, not this last one, but the one before. And that was
Yeah,
a joy. That was a joy to have you on, MJ.
it really was. We see some great comments from you, but to actually have you live and in person and talking, it was really cool.
Yeah, well, because we have these regulars, and they're kind of the spice of the show, and it's kind of nice to be able to give them a platform now and then to get to know them a little better, because we can with the comments, but then when you get to know them better, you get to know them better.
Exactly, exactly. Well, MJ, you are extraordinarily profound. So I would love for you to type your favorite motivational speech or quote, favorite motivational
Quote.
quote. Because and everyone else who's online, please feel free to put yours as well. But MJ is the profound master. Well, that and Don. Don is
Dawn.
the other profound master. So come on, guys, put them up, because if you don't put them up, I am going to ask Mr. Scott Stevens what his favorite motivational quote is.
Because you were sending me topics a little earlier today, things to bring up, and you said like World Emoji Day and National Lottery Day.
Yes,
Emojis have gathered or gained that kind of status.
pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm either disappointed or curious. I'm not quite sure what yet. I guess it depends on how it plays out.
Exactly. Well, what amazes me about emojis is they started as these cute little smiley faces, and then they turned into big cheesy and blue
Uh-huh.
faces and all that kind of stuff. And
And
then somewhere along, somebody decided that we needed a pile of poop.
we did. We did. This is my favorite one. That one right there. Or that one. Or this one. Those are probably my favorite three, other than the generic smile
Yeah.
or the wink.
Yeah. Well, the
I mean,
wink.
the wink. I mean, you could do those with a keyboard. I mean, most of them. But yeah, it definitely evolved with the smartphone. So let's see. As a follow up to yesterday's inspirational quotes from past guests, do we want to do something about favorite quotes and why to get people started talking? You had mentioned.
Is
Yeah, well,
anyone filling them in, or do I have to start twisting arms?
let's see. Robin does. So true, Don. I think it was the first 24 hours of TV programming. Oh, and that
That's
was
not a quote,
Oh,
Robin.
no, it's not a quote. I think that came up before the quotes because the movement is a little bit moving. We always did that as children. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We're talking about the clouds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way
I
back.
I was just sitting out there outside having a little cup of coffee this morning before it all happened, and there were planes overhead. And then I remember thinking when I was growing up, this is what, early 70s in Pocatello, I looked forward to the sonic booms. Yeah,
Oh.
that was my exciting part of cloud watching was the occasional sonic boom, boom, boom. Truly. And then they just kind of disappeared because they changed what the military could do, out. Then this was way out west where there was almost next to nobody except for us out there. And then MJ,
Oh.
you got a reply.
Your net worth is not your self worth. Wow. That is awesome. And boy, isn't that true? And MJ, I'd love to find out why you,
Well,
why that's important to you. But
because
that,
money
mhm.
is not the sum of who we are. We this society has been so stuck with money being, equating to happiness, equating to pleasure, and it's all comes back to money because if they can't extract money from your pocket with a commercial, then the commercial's failed.
Well, and the other
And
thing is that money is very tangible,
mhm,
except now with digital currency, which you've been talking about all week in another perspective. But it's something tangible to do that. And I'm curious. I don't certainly there are other countries who are not so focused on money,
yeah,
but in America we really are. And when people take the time to realize that their net worth is not their self worth,
self worth.
that's
Yeah,
that's deep and wise.
yep, it is. And sometimes you have to have your net worth extracted from you before you realize you have more than that. And then you're not fantasizing about more and more and more when there is enough.
Someone commented on that yesterday, and that's so true. Like actually, that person was you, with simplicity.
Yeah,
There's not a need for. There's not a want for more.
yeah. And when you can let go of that, I think it makes living and walking through life a little bit easier. But usually we have to, and this is usually the process, is you have to have it taken away before you come to that realization. And that's just how it all works. Robin chimes in.
Oh, I like that one.
Whether or not, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're always right.
Yes,
So it
yes.
becomes
That's
self-fulfilling.
yeah, well, exactly, exactly. And Henry Ford is a classic example of that because can you imagine being one of the first manufacturers of cars and says, okay, so listen, it's going to be like this. We don't need the horse. It's going to be something that's built like this, like a wagon, and there are wheels, and it moves by itself. I mean,
Oh, and it won't scare the horses.
exactly. I mean, it's like Noah building an ark. Trust me, in 50 years when it's done, it's going to
Yeah.
rain.
No, we're going to get this done in 7 days. No,
But
we
that was a
were,
good one, Robin. I
yeah,
like that one a lot.
yeah, Don and I were talking about, well, something related to cars and just that we're going to need electric cars really, really soon because of the parts issues we're beginning to see, uh, happening. So go ahead and read it, Karen.
Robin Helm, you stole my favorite quote.
Oh,
That is anyone who knows me well through social media or other things knows that this is my favorite quote in the universe. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm
possible.
possible.
Ah,
That is that. Thank you for putting that up, Robin, because obviously I can't type it, but that is really significant to me because too many times all of us, no matter how that's why she put it up. You're my superhero, Robin Helm. But so many times, I shouldn't say so many times, every single one of us at some point in our lives have said or thought, that's impossible. I couldn't possibly do that. And I needed that reassurance at some point. And I got that quote. And Audrey Hepburn was an extraordinary woman. And, yeah, everyone says, "Oh, she's a beautiful woman. She was a nice actress." She is an incredible humanitarian. She is a major philanthropist. She's done an incredible amount of work in underdeveloped countries. And so she was more than just a pretty face.
Yeah.
And so I think that not only is that quote important for me, but I think that speaks volumes for who she is as a person.
Yep. Yep.
People would say, oh, it's okay, honey, you're a pretty face. That's, you're not going to want to put on a pair of jeans and go into some underdeveloped country. And I'm sure that she had a few choice words. And since this is a family-friendly show, I can't say what they were. But nothing was impossible. So she did it.
She did it. She did it. And in that vein, we tend to be our own obstacles. We just, you admit to yourself that it's impossible, and therefore you don't even make the attempt. You don't see or try to discover a way through the challenge. And if you've got a team or somebody around you that can whisper in your ear and you actually receive the message, then you can climb that mountain. You can climb that mountain.
It's hugely significant. One of the things we've talked about on this show a lot in the last couple of weeks is the importance of action. It's great to have all of these fantastic ideas and, you want to build your plan and your timeline, but it never gets off the ground.
Yeah.
And sometimes just moving forward and doing something gets you started.
Gets you, yeah. Because, you can have an idea, but how is it made real? And so the idea can't manifest itself. It needs a channel. It needs a tool. It needs a point that'll create that outcome that idea inspires within. And that's the point of action. Otherwise, you're just sitting with it and lamenting that, oh, I could have done that, or I should have done this, or do you remember when I said that? Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. All right. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence.
Yes.
Vince Lombardi, and Robin's killing it today. I think she's got another Google up there going, here, try this one. Look at this, baby. Boom.
No, she's profound.
Isn't she, though? And talking about Henry Ford. Now, he was so brilliant about pushing others to believe that a concept is achievable, and he pushed the concept of the Model A, the Model T. Right now, he left a legacy, literally left a legacy. For better, for worse, it exists to this day.
Well, exactly. And I just want to, you said a word that I really love, and that's the word legacy. So many people think a legacy is something like Henry Ford. If we wouldn't have cars if he hadn't done his thing, or some Heinz or some of the big guys that have made impressive cash differences. But I think about my family. My family on both sides were not wealthy people growing up.
Yeah.
But they created a legacy of faith and of love. In my family, you could be a second cousin twice removed on your mother's in-law side. You're still a cousin.
Yeah.
And that's part of the legacy that my family left for me. And as simple as it sounds, those are significant to me, and they're things that I'm passing on to my daughter because I want that to be a piece of the legacy that I share with her.
Yeah. And I think those of us that came up without that privilege of money, we kind of look at legacies in a different way, that it all has to be self-made. I mean, completely. And Henry Ford was probably in that same vein. They have a great idea, but they were born with the drive. They harnessed that drive to accomplish that idea where they saw it would provide solutions for the everyday man. You could buy any color Model T you want as long as it's black. Yeah, it's black. And they bought them. Stinky things. All right, go ahead.
Speaking of stinky things, why don't you read Don's quote?
Speaking of that, Karen, the recent issues we've had, we may need horse and buggies. It seems the supply chain for auto parts is having a direct impact on auto repairs, and we know that from personal experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
couple of people nearby have had either a brand new vehicle or one that's coming up on 10 years old. Both have needed parts, and both
mhm,
have found that those parts needed are unavailable. So this is going to be something that we'll probably end up talking about a little more in depth as time goes on.
exactly. But it's interesting because I've experienced that twice in the last month. We already have
Hmm.
two freezers,
Hmm.
but I wanted another one based on the pandemic and what was
Yeah.
going on. And there's not a freezer to be had. They're all made overseas, so they're not here. And just yesterday, as you all know, if you watch the show, no electricity, no air conditioning. I was not a happy girl yesterday. But someone came and checked out. A friend of ours came and checked it out last night. And the piece that we need with the supply chain, it's not here.
Wow.
Now, fortunately, whatever the issue is, he can keep charging it with Freon,
Okay.
and it's not as cool as it would usually be, but at least I'm not a puddle.
Hmm.
But the supply chain's really biting.
Well, and it becomes a first world to second world kind of issue. If all of those things are made 7,000 or more miles away, you just have to wonder the wisdom of just in time. And
Well, yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that's been a business model that's in place for 30 plus years now. So we're deeply embedded into, if I don't need it this week, I don't need it in inventory because I know I can get it,
well, and that's
and that's
hugely
changed.
important, especially in the US with our cost of wages and things like that. It saves an incredible amount of money. But that's something I was just talking with to my husband this morning. Uh, by this experience, by what we're going through with the pandemic, we will be bringing so much more manufacturing
Hmm.
back to the
Oh,
United States.
yep.
And if that's the case, even just in time and lean still will work if we're just here
Here.
within the boundaries domestically.
Yeah. Then it's like a priority mail package that gets, from the manufacturing plant in North Carolina, which they used to do a lot of textiles, they used to do a
Yep.
lot of furniture,
Yes.
and those industries have been decimated. I remember in school at Kansas, KU, I had a friend because I worked at the city library as my kind of job, and her family worked at the Lee jeans manufacturing plant in Lee
Mm-hmm.
Summit, Missouri,
Yep.
and they would go over there for the outlet sales.
Yep.
And ultimately, while I was there in the late 80s, they shut it down and gone.
Wow.
It was just gone. So, I mean, one by one, we've seen these jobs just disappear. Jobs that add value to this nation, to that county, to that city. Because if you're not adding value to what you're doing, then
Well,
anyway, maybe that's why it's gone. Is because it added value.
but there's incredible pride
Hmm.
in looking at something that you've done, and there's national pride when it's been done in our country. How many organizations are making that part of their promotion campaigns, made in the USA?
Yeah.
And
And
that's been
yeah.
important.
And I
Yeah.
remember Walmart also in the 80s when that first became an issue, and they were as a pride, made in USA, but that didn't last long. Did not
Mm,
last long. All right,
no.
MJ, this has been up here so long, I'm getting screen burn in. What people think about you does not define who you are.
Yes.
And then Robin follows up, love that one. And yeah, if you're worried about what people thinking about you, we wouldn't do the shows. You wouldn't put yourself out there for
No,
for
it's true.
for judgment. If you're that sensitive, the media and being out in front of people, especially in this world today, is not the place for you. You've really got to grow some thick skin.
Well, absolutely. And when I was younger, I didn't have that. And it was very hard for me.
Yeah.
So it was interesting as I got older, learned that that was really necessary. They say that when women turn 50,
Mm-hmm.
they get to a point where they say, I don't care.
Yeah.
And when I turned 50 a few years ago, that's where I am. If you
Yeah.
don't like me, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm good
Go
with that.
someplace else. Yeah,
I've
you don't
made it.
like something I say? That's cool.
It's
Go
okay.
listen to someone else.
My first news director, Bob Totten, at KTK in Topeka, he said, Scott, I'm going to we're going to talk about some things, but for every instance where I offer a suggestion or point out something that could be changed, I need to offer you 6 praises. So that was the ratio that he
Yeah.
worked with, because with 6 cubes of sugar, a bitter pill could be introduced. And
Interesting.
that's how he dealt with this, and because it was, a small station next to a college, University of Kansas, that he was dealing with kids that were just coming out of J school, just coming out of the meteorology program, that kind of new talent. And so he had to mold them with his wisdom. But I always remember that going into his office, because the weather desk was right outside the news director's office, and the studio was through the newsroom and then across the way. But he was a good man. He was a good man.
Yeah, Bob Cotton, he was a very wise
Bob
person.
Totten. Yeah, yeah. But
Very good.
all those first TV jobs or media jobs, they always, well, let's just say it's just a hair above minimum wage. Just a hair.
Well,
But
but those type of jobs, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, those are make or break jobs in
they
terms
are,
of staying in media.
because you need that line on your resume that said someone else took the risk on you,
Yes,
and that's how it's built.
yes.
All right, Donnie, manufacturing. So what happens if manufacturing does ramp back up to full speed? Do prices skyrocket due to shortages? How do we change the way we live to accommodate even refrigerator shortages? We used to have root cellars, and how could we implement what worked in the past but yet improve upon it? Good question. I'm sure he's going to have some answers for us.
I grew up with root cellars. My grandma had root cellars, and it really was the way to go. I've planted for the last couple of years a little garden, a couple
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
veggies, tomatoes. This year with the pandemic, I took a very different approach, and I
Share.
now have 12 plants, good variety. I'm growing some microherbs here inside the house, and I don't regret it at all. But with that volume comes the savvy to say, I need to know how to can,
Yeah.
and I need a safe place to store those things. So my cousin Mary Jane, hi Mary Jane, is going to teach me to can, because she's done that for decades, and that's part of the legacy
Yeah.
that we talked about earlier. That will be part of the legacy, that Mary Jane taught me how to do that,
Wow.
and I'll teach Ada, and it'll keep going.
Yep. And we had to do that. My dad was a school teacher and 7 children. So
Wow.
we had, a limited income, but we
Mm.
had an acre. And once we had that land, I'm telling you, that first summer we were out there tilled, we bought a rototiller and we're out there turning over the ground. And we grew all that we could within what the climate would allow us to. And there was one summer, one county fair, where there was a greased pig contest. I caught the pig. I never could get the clothes clean because it was pig poo and it was lard that kept the pig, slippery. But I was 12 and I was big for my age, but I caught that pig. But I had to let go of those clothes because 3 times through the wash, they never could get the stink out. But we had pigs from then on. And that's where all the leftovers were to the pigs.
Exactly.
And so we had pigs. We had a single cow until she was bred, and then we had little calves, and we had to drag the cow along the gullies alongside the county road. So that was free food. My goodness, we just had to feed the cow. We had raspberries. We canned. We just did what we could do on Dad's teacher's salary. And it teaches you a little bit of humility, a little bit of always wanting more, because kids do. You just kind of do. You're like, why can't I? Why can't I? Especially when you have friends who had Ataris, who had game consoles, and that wasn't an option. That wasn't an option in our house. So we went to friends' houses. All right.
Well, it looks like
Enough
it's
of me.
time to wrap up here. Although I
Oh,
have to say that I will never, ever, ever be able
let's
to look at you the same way again as my
big.
favorite. You're already my favorite meteorologist. You're an incredible futurist. And now I have to add greased pig catcher
Yeah.
to your credentials. I'm impressed.
It was quite the. Dad's like, all right, we got to build a fence. How are we going to contain this thing? Yeah, they trough and food and water. Yeah, it was something else. All right, Donnie over here. We're going to run through these comments. We have contest, and comments. I'd hate to have to learn English at this age. That would not be fun. I have great admiration for those who come into English as a second language or a third language. I've been noticing old root sellers as I've been driving into older parts of our community are our solutions in the past. Just like Tracy Wilson's Unlocked show last night, speaking of her project company for families sharing their past. Just maybe the statement, listen to your elders, is actually life-saving. And that's when we used to have oral histories. You know, all of that passed down from generation to generation, via oral, stories and storytelling. And I know Donnie loves to tell stories.
Well, I love seeing his stories in the chat.
Yep.
He has had a very rich life, and not just what he's experienced, but with his mother and his grandmother. And I love that.
Yep.
They touch my heart because those women are continuing to leave legacy, and they may not have had bazillions of dollars.
Yeah. No, they didn't.
But
they didn't, because go for it.
Well, yeah, but how many decades later are we talking about these women?
Yeah. True. Legacy.
Yeah.
Legacy and an impact on the development of that younger generation. When you've got a grandparent or a mentor or a teacher that impacts you that way, you take it through life. It's meaningful. Yeah, that was funny about pig wrangling, Robin. And I'll tell you what, I have pictures. It's scary.
Okay, Sunday night meeting.
It's scary. All right.
I expect to see it.
All right, guys. We're past the 30-minute mark, aren't we? I hate to go over too long because then that bumps the next show out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have loved doing this weekly wrap-up with you, and as we all know, Vickie Helm will be back on Monday for the Coffee Break Show with Vickie Helm. And it's been wonderful working with you. Thanks for pulling it all together.
You too, Karen. Thanks for the topics. I still have a whole list over here. You said the Goya boycott. It's a good thing this is only 30 minutes. Boycott. That's what it turned into. It was a big old food drive donation to, things that look bad. You can turn it around and turn it positive.
Exactly, in a very positive way. It was great. I went out and I bought a couple of things. They're not necessarily things that I'm going to use, so I've donated them.
Good.
But I wanted to be supportive of.
And when I thought was important. When we lived in Puerto Rico for a year and a half, Goya was the brand.
Yes.
That was the go-to. So we got familiar with a lot of their products, and it was all good for me. I enjoyed it all. I like food. Okay, that'll do it. I think we're kind of through that. All right, Karen. Have a great weekend.
Scott. Have a great weekend. And for all of our viewers, have a great weekend. And we'll see you on this show at Monday. 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 Mountain, 10 Central, 6 Greenwich Mountain Time. Do I need to keep going?
Greenwich Mean? Yeah, no. I think you've got it.
Meantime,
covered. And you'll be in the chat box with me while Vickie fills the screen.
Yes, with tired fingers. I love it.
Yep, exactly. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your midsummer's weekend because summer is ticking to a close. We're past that midway point for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I like summer. All right.
Bye,
see you guys.
everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.